Hello, this is Brian Hegney, instructor of Game and Interactive Media Design and instructor of your COM 1112 class. This is the fourth video in this series, which is kind of introducing you into what you're going to be doing for your still image video and getting started, and especially getting started on your animatic. Now, what we didn't go over because I was just about to run out of time in the last video. If I go beyond 15 minutes, YouTube doesn't allow high-resolution images, so, or how high-res, yeah, high-res. So let me go ahead and show you what I was about to make a blurb about, which is, this is what you're going to do. If I spent 15 minutes on this, you know, I might expect you to do it in an hour, 4 times as long. It's something this complicated would take you a really long time. So what I want you to focus on is just placing images down. And the thing about going back to the Simpsons animatic, it didn't have to be perfect. Like, the reason why you do an animatic, just to go back to the Simpsons, is to watch it. What's different? What's wrong? If you notice in here, the animatic is different than the overall animation.
Hello.
It should be. And the animatic is where you figure all that stuff out. So what I want you to do is not focus on being perfect, not focus on getting the best images. Like, what I learned from this right now is I kind of want a really high resolution image of fingers playing strings. And I didn't really know that when I was Google searching for images until I made this animatic and kind of was zooming in while I was doing it. So you're going to have serendipitous moments like that. That's the goal. The goal is you're going to create something you didn't plan for and that you would never have known ahead of time. So look at how long this is. I don't expect this to take 15 minutes multiplied by the length of that. That would be way too crazy. I'd love to see, you know, 20 images at least placed along, but that shouldn't take too long. And then that's what you'll upload to YouTube and embed to a blog. Okay? Okay, so let's talk about this, because I've kind of got to this point where, let's watch this again.
Do you believe that music is a universal language?
When I get to this part, I am going to want to zoom in, slowly zoom in, and pan a little bit. So this is an introduction to animation, because placing the images in your scene is one thing, but now let's have control over it. So I'm going to select, whoops, I'm going to deselect, because I had all of them selected. You can make a huge selection on your timeline and move all of them around if you want to. I'm not going to do that. I can select this one. And I'm going to show you a really important tab. And that tab is in the same area as your source monitor. Remember now, this monitor here, this window in the top left, is monitoring the original audio that was up at my top in my audio. See, that's what it's monitoring, this original audio. What I want to look at right now is the Effect Controls tab, which is directly to the right of the Source Monitor tab. Right now, mine is empty because I don't have anything selected. Wait, I should! There I go. I'm selected this again in my timeline. This is my last clip, and I can see all sorts of information. I can look at its position. Its position is 732.5 by 305.6. Its scale, let's look at its scale. That will be more interesting for you. 309.2. It's 309% as large. Well, let's look. I'm going to click on this image here. This is 354%. If I click on this image, it's 500%. So every single footage item in your timeline has an effect controls all to itself. Okay? This original violin image, 399.4 scale. If I were to left click and drag my mouse, left click, hold my left click button down and drag. I don't know why students don't get this. It takes a long time, and maybe it's because I did a lot of 3D modeling before coming to Premiere. When someone says left click and drag to the left, that means I hold my left mouse button down and drag my mouse to the left, to the right. My left mouse button is still down. And you can see that I'm saying this is 20%, 70%, 80%, 200%, 1097%. You can see how that changes that, right? So when we were double clicking in our program monitor and moving this image handles, it was actually changing the scale in the effect control tab. You didn't know that, and I didn't tell you that because you weren't ready for it yet. Okay, so let's play with this. This is going to be fun. If we change the scale of an object, by the way, if you're changing the scale of an object and you're not seeing it, like watch this. I'm selecting orchestra.jfif and I'm changing the scale. Why isn't the picture of my violin changing? Do you know? Can you guess? It's because my playhead is over the violin JPEG in my timeline. I am changing the scale of a completely different image in my timeline that my playhead is not over. Okay? So I want you to make note. Your playhead, where it is, can be different than the image you select and edit. So it's possible you don't see the edits you're changing. Okay, so place your playhead over an image you want to animate. Click on it. By the way, I'm going to save this because I want you to have access to it as O3. And I'm going to set this to the scale that I want it to start at. Something like this. And I'm going to rearrange this little window. Now there's a window within a window. Okay. I'm going to place my playhead at the beginning of this clip. See my playhead down here in my timeline, and there's a playhead in my effect controls now? They are the same place. They represent the same place in the timeline. So I'm going to drag my playhead here, and I'm going to animate scale. What I want you to see in Premiere, and this goes for all of Adobe's animation tools, this icon to the left of scale, the word scale. And if you don't see scale, by the way, twirl down the motion tab to the left, there to the left of the FX button, there is an arrow. If it's pointing toward the word motion, it's not showing you all of the stuff that's inside. Twirl it down, that means click the little arrow that twirls it down. There's a little stopwatch to the left of the word scale. If you click it, that tells Adobe you are ready to animate. If that stopwatch is not blue, it cannot be animated. Okay, so now that I click the stopwatch, it creates this little keyframe here in the shape of a diamond. Yes, it's a diamond. If you have your playhead over the beginning, it looks like a triangle. I'm going to undo that, by the way. I'm going to go back and show you something. If you uncheck the stopwatch, it's going to say, oh my gosh, by doing that, you're going to delete all of your work. Yeah, I'm okay with that right now. I'm going to place my playhead right here and click scale. Notice it drops that keyframe right there. Okay? This is the start to animation. Now, nothing is animated yet. Nothing is animated yet because nothing is changing yet. The scale value is not changing. In order to change it and make an animation, I'm going to drag, and notice I can drag this keyframe anywhere I want on this horizontal timeline, which means time starts here and goes to here. I'm going to leave it about here. I'm going to drag my playhead over here, and I'm just going to left click and drag the value of the scale. Again, hold your mouse button down and drag to the right. I'm just going to drag that much. I'm not going to go insane and go like this. I'm just going to be a little bit more. Let go. And now as I drag my playhead, oh my gosh, did you update?
Do you believe that music is a universal language?
Oh, it is so... Why aren't you scaling? Oh my gosh. I'm going to pause this while I figure this out. Okay, there's a glitch. All I had to do was wiggle my my little keyframe and let go, and now it will show. What? Oh my gosh. It's linear. It's linear. Auto Bezier? Auto Bezier?
Do you believe that music?
Hold on. Okay, so there's something really annoying from mine. Yours might not do this. And I'm gonna have to, this has never happened in my office before. But, just so you know, it's not actually showing the update in my program monitor. And I don't know why, I think it's just having a hard time rendering it all, which I find completely ridiculous. In all of my 7 years teaching here, this has never happened. But what I want to do is show you something. If this happens to you, you can get over it by doing this. Placing your playhead in the sequence before your animation. I'm kind of annoyed this is like that. And tapping your I for in. Dragging your playhead beyond where you have your animation and tapping O for out. Remember making an in and an out point. You guys should all be familiar with this. And I'm going to go to sequence and render into out. I guess it just has to analyze every single frame.
Do you believe that music?
And now, because I rendered those changes, it's showing that animation. It should not be this hard. I don't know why it is, because this is the first time this has happened to me. Okay, so that's how you change animation. It might be because I'm recording it now. I'm not sure. I haven't recorded a video of this before, so maybe that's why. You know, I'm going to close my expensive game engine. Maybe that will help. Well, I closed everything, and I've got to tell you, I'm a little disappointed. It is still not really working so well for me. Again, this is the first time. I didn't know this would happen on my desktop computer. Maybe it's better so that you have more of an appreciation for animation. I don't know. The other thing I want to do, I'm going to animate one more thing. This is animating scale. So it scales from 294% through 385%, right? And by the way, if I want to go to this frame or that keyframe, I can use these little arrow keys to go from one animated frame to the next. If your playhead is anywhere in between them, and you just change this at all, just wiggle it, you add a third frame, by the way. And again, I have to render that to actually see what that does.
Do you believe that music is universal?
And so just so you know, you don't want to keep adding frames all over the place. So I'm going to actually delete that by using my arrows to go to that middle frame that I didn't want and clicking the little Add Remove Keyframe button, and that will remove it. That's going to remove any frame you accidentally place. Okay, the next thing I want to do is move it, reposition it from here so that her little musical instrument is more in the center. And I'm going to do that by first going to the very first keyframe, and only when it's there on the first keyframe, I'm going to add the position animation start, right? So I'm going to say, hey, you're going to animate position. Blam. There it is. Now you see it added a keyframe there. Exactly the same frame that the scale starts. And I'm going to drag my playhead. Well, I'm not going to drag it. I'm going to use these little arrows on the scale to go to where the scale end is. I'm going to move this a little bit so I can actually see it. And I'm going to, now that movement is enabled, I'm just going to double click my image here and move it a little bit like that. Let go, and I'm going to render that. Oh, look at that. Movement is, it worked. No, it didn't. I have to actually sequence render into out, and we'll play it.
Do you believe that music is a universal language?
Yay! Now it scales, and
do you believe that music
and it moves its position. And that is the first steps towards animation. If you want to do that in your animatic, I think you should try. All right, I'm going to have one more follow-up video, possibly. Bye!